Hi there, it's Allison Kurak, owner of Stitch Real Estate Transaction Coordination Company, and today's video is kind of part 2 to the last video I did. So if you watched my last video about all the top perks and pros of being a transaction coordinator, then today's video is here to crush your dreams. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. But I want to do the flip side of the pros and kind of talk about some of the cons so that if you're interested in this industry or getting into it, you want to have a better idea, what to expect, prepare yourself. Is this something you really want to do? I kind of just want to give a whole realistic picture of some of the things that I think are negatives in this role, or things that maybe you just wouldn't be expecting based on some of the pros or just general ideas or stereotypes you have about this job. Okay, so the first one is going to be that sometimes it's really stressful, like pulling your hair out. What am I gonna do? There's 50 people calling me. I have 20 texts, 50 emails. I still have 20 more tasks I have to do. There's 3 files closing tomorrow and I have to do something for them. So basically it can just be stressful, which any job can, but especially any job in real estate. And there's a couple reasons for this. Real estate is highly emotional, mainly for the buyer-seller parties, but sometimes for other people involved in the transaction as well. So it's really emotional for the core clients, the buyer and seller. It's also an expensive transaction typically for the buyer and seller, dealing with lots of funds from them personally. So that just kind of raises the stakes. Also, there are a lot of harsh and legal deadlines that need to be you need to be aware of and need to be managed properly. Also, a lot of times things can come down to the wire when everyone's really trying to make it work, but sometimes there are just so many hurdles or obstacles that can come up during a transaction that you feel like you're constantly in like fight or flight, like trying to get around these obstacles, and you finally find something that'll work. Here's another one. So I know a lot of jobs probably have all their moments of stress, and I will say it is not constantly stressful, especially if you're proactive and you stay on top of your task and your deadlines and you're reading the room and looking around what could potentially go wrong in this transaction and trying to figure out what to avoid it, which comes obviously with more experience. But just FYI, it can definitely be a little stressful sometimes. Okay, and then the second one, if you watched my first video where I went over the pros, it kind of piggybacks off that, where it's kind of like a seesaw. Yes. So I said you can work from anywhere. That's a huge pro. And you can work as little or as much as you want. Another huge pro. However, something I kind of feel like people think when they think that is like, I'm going to wake up in the Maldives on my laptop, I'm going to send a couple emails, and then we're going to go frolic around the Maldives all day and I'm going to make a bunch of money from there. That's like partially true, but one thing I've noticed is like, even if you're not that busy, you can find yourself kind of chained to the laptop or the phone or the desk. So for example, when I've been in a slower period, like when I was transitioning over my business, maybe I only had like 20 or 30 minutes of actual work to do in the morning. And so I did take a vacation during this time. But then I had to have my phone there all day. Because even if I'm done at 10 a.m. and I'm ready to go explore my vacation, or maybe even I'm at home and I'm just ready to go spend time with my family or have something else planned, whatever. Well, you've technically maybe done your tasks this work and answered your emails that came in the night before and early that morning. There's a chance that a lot more emails could come in throughout the day, or text or calls. You could get a new contract that you need to work. On that note, I don't think I've ever mentioned this, but if I get a new contract before 3 o'clock, I'm definitely trying to process it that day. If something comes in at 4:30, and you end at 5, don't stress yourself out about it. But let's say you're ready to go explore, vacation, it's noon, and then a new contract comes in. That's probably something where you need to get back to your laptop or your computer and work on it. Or maybe just at least checking your email, okay, I did everything this morning, gonna check my email around lunch, then gonna check my email towards late afternoon into the day, just in case there's anything that needs to be done. So while you have the opportunity to work from anywhere and work as little as much as you want, you can kind of be chained still to your phone or computer during business hours. And I think that's just something to kind of be aware of, to set a realistic expectation. So if you're working from home, it's okay, I can go take a break or do some stuff around the house or work on my marketing or something else, but then I'm still able to easily go back to my computer. But if you're dreaming of jet setting around the world doing it, just definitely something to keep in mind. And kind of a backup to that is I always laugh when people are like, you can work from anywhere. And it's like, but when I've had 99 files going at one time, like shout out summer 2021, that was crazy. I was working honestly like 10 hours a day. So yeah, I can go to Hawaii and work from my laptop. But if I'm gonna be working from 7 o'clock to 5 o'clock or 9 to 7 p.m., it's like, how much are you really able to enjoy that stuff? So I know some people love that. They'll make it work. They'll squeeze in their nights and their weekends for activities, but just something to be like totally aware of is you are kind of still chained to your email, your laptop, your phone, like during business hours. And if you are super, super, super busy, then you will be working a lot. So from wherever. Okay, and then next up, I want to touch on the income. So in the pros video, I said how there is like unlimited income potential, and it can be a really, really lucrative business if you're willing to take on enough files, which is great. And you can also decide, you know, what file level works for your family or your income level you need, whatever. But this is the real estate industry. So sometimes it is going to be more inconsistent, you know, commission style income. I feel really fortunate after doing it for probably like a year, maybe a little less, actually, probably a little less than a year. I got into a really good, like, consistent place of like what I wanted to be making, what I could expect. You know, obviously the numbers would vary a little bit like week to week because I pay myself weekly, but it was pretty relatively consistent and I would know what to expect. So you definitely can get there, but then sometimes you'll have a random week where you make way less than you're used to, or the next week you would make way more. So it's just something to think of. While you may make a great overall number during the year, it could vary greatly week to week, and also on that seasonally. So, you know, real estate traditionally follows a seasonal pattern. People buy homes all year round. I always heard the rumor that like some real estate take vacation like November, December, January. Like, that's crazy. I've never met one, because people are still buying homes, but typically those winter months are slower than the summer months. So just something you would want to budget for or plan for accordingly. If you start in June and everything's crazy, you're making a great amount of money, having a great amount of closings, know that come December, January, February, you may not be making as much. So you may just want to like budget accordingly. So for people who aren't used to that, it's definitely something you want to plan for. Also taxes, I'll mention that in my video, but please plan for taxes if you haven't worked a contract kind of role before. Okay, and then lastly, I want to kind of touch on income too. Sometimes the deal falls through, not because of anything you did, not because of anything in the agent, or really sometimes even anyone's control. But the way our transactions work, which I think a lot of TCs work similarly, is we only get paid if and when the file closes. So it could be a day before closing and something catastrophic happens and the file doesn't close, and I've worked on it for a month and now I'm not going to get paid. So obviously that could differ depending on how you have it set up. That's how we do it. We feel like it's most fair. The agent's been working on it. Usually we will get that person back under contract, and it all kind of just what goes around comes around, I feel like. It's kind of just part of the business. But if that's something you're worried about, you would definitely structure your business to have some type of different pay scale, or maybe after a canceled file you get like a prorated fee or something like that. But me and the other TCs I know really just get paid at closing and funding, which works most of the time. Usually things will terminate relatively early on in the transaction where you've only done a little bit of work, so you feel better, but still sometimes you'll get a new contract, you're so excited, oh, I've got 25 closings this month, and then a couple may fall through. So it's just something, like I said, to be aware of. Sometimes you may do work that you don't get paid on if you have it set up the way we do. So those are kind of my cons. I don't really like being negative, but I wanted to just provide like, you know, pros. I thought it was only fair to then also provide some of the cons. These are all things you can work through and overcome. Like I said, a lot of them are just having realistic expectations with yourself and for your business, budgeting accordingly, you know, planning for stress or busy times or whatever. So while it may be a negative, it's definitely not something you can overcome. If you have any questions or you want any tips on how to overcome a specific item I discussed, drop them down below. Also, if you have any cons yourself that I didn't mention that you think it's important for people in the community to be aware of, or maybe you want a tip on how to work through, go ahead and leave a comment below as well. I love connecting with you guys, and maybe we can turn some of the cons into pros in some way. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video series of pros and cons of being a TC. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and check out our channel and our Instagram for some really great other content. Thanks, y'all.